Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to create powerful AI agents in n8n that can generate high-quality images for your blog posts, social media content, and more. What's unique about our approach is that we'll be using a pay-per-use model with replicate.com instead of expensive subscriptions. This gives you access to high-quality image generation at competitive prices. We'll be working with Black Forest Labs' Flux Models, specifically Flux for quick testing, and Flux Pro for production quality images. These models create stunning, detailed images that are perfect for professional content. Let's break down what we'll cover: creating a sub-workflow for generating optimized image prompts using Claude, building a sub-workflow for generating images using Replicate's API, setting up storage solutions in Google Drive and Sheets to track generations, combining these workflows to create a complete blog post generation system. If you've seen my previous video on creating a GPT-4 web search agent, you'll recognize some concepts as we'll be integrating that functionality as well. Let's get started. Now, before we dive into building our workflows, let's take a moment to understand the technology we'll be using. As you can see on the Replicate website, they offer a simple API-based approach to AI image generation with a pay-per-use pricing model. This means you only pay for what you generate rather than committing to a monthly subscription. Black Forest Labs has developed several Flux models that are available through Replicate. Flux is their fast and lightweight model, perfect for when you need to quickly test and prototype ideas, generate drafts or concepts, and prioritize speed over the highest possible quality. Plus, it's quite affordable, costing only about 2 cents to 3 cents per generation. Flux Pro or Flux 1.1 Pro is their top-of-the-line model, offering higher resolution and detail, a better grasp of complex prompts, more realistic textures and lighting, and enhanced composition and artistic quality. You can expect to pay around 4 to 15 cents per generation. Both models let you use different aspect ratios, including 16:9, which is great for blog headers and social media posts. You can also tweak settings like the seed value to manage randomness and keep things consistent. Steps to decide how many diffusion steps are done. More steps mean a more detailed result but slower process. And guidance to adjust how closely the model sticks to your prompt. Higher means it follows more literally. Using Replicate's API in n8n offers us several perks. First, it's cost efficient because you only pay for the images that are successfully generated. It's also flexible, allowing you to switch between different models depending on what you need. Plus, you can automate tasks by integrating with other workflows, and it can easily scale up to handle large batches. In our process, we'll begin with Flux for testing to keep costs low, and then move to Flux Pro for high-quality images. This way, we get the best of both worlds: budget-friendly testing and top-notch final results. Now that we understand the models we'll be working with, let's start building our first sub-workflow, the image prompt generator. First, let's create our prompt generator sub-workflow. This will take a context, like a news article or blog topic, and generate an optimized prompt for image creation. Start by creating a new workflow in n8n and name it Subflow Image Prompt Generator. Add an execute workflow trigger node. This allows other workflows to call this one. In the input section, add a parameter called context. This will be our input text. Now let's add the basic LLM chain node. Set the prompt type to define below and write the prompt. Remember to include the context as well. You can find all the prompts I'm using in the link in the description. Now we need to add our language model. We'll use Claude Sonnet for this task, since it's excellent at understanding context and generating creative prompts. Add an Anthropic chat model node. Connect your Anthropic API credentials and choose Claude 3.5 Sonnet as model. Set the temperature to 0.8 to encourage some creativity and the max tokens to 4096 to allow for detailed responses. That's all. This workflow will now take any context we provide and generate a personalized prompt that will produce high-quality images when fed to our image generation model. Now let's test our workflow with a sample context. As we can see from the result, the model has processed our idea or the information about our content and generated an optimized prompt for an AI image generation agent. Now let's create our image generation sub-workflow that will use Replicate's API to generate images. Create a new workflow named Subflow Replicate Image Generator. Add an execute workflow trigger node that takes two inputs. First, a prompt, which is a text string from our previous workflow, and second, a test flag to indicate whether we are in testing mode. Also modify the output to simulate the parameters of our workflow. Next, we need to format the prompt correctly to ensure that certain special characters do not cause our automation to fail. So, add a code node and name it sanitize prompt. Then, paste the JavaScript code that you will also find in the link in the description. Now, based on the execution mode of our workflow, we need to set the correct Flux model. Let's add an if node and check the value of our test mode. When the condition is true, add a set node and name it setTestModel. Create a variable called model with the value fluxSchnell. When the condition is false, instead, add a set node and name it setProModel. Set a variable called model with the value fluxPro. Add a merge node too to correctly handle the flow after the splitting. Now let's add the Replicate API request. Add an HTTP request node and set the method to post. The Replicate API address contains the name of the model to be used, so we need to make it dynamic. Set the mode to expression. Paste the address, and then set the model name to the value obtained from the previous step. You will always find the address to use in the link in the description. Now add your Replicate API key as a header authentication and set the correct header parameters. Finally, let's set the correct value for the request body in JSON format, which will include all the model parameters, including our prompt. As we can see, based on our requirements, we can also set the image format, type, seed, and more. The first few times, I recommend not setting the seed so that you can see the generated images. Based on the style you like the most, you can later set the seed to maintain consistency in the style of the generations. Let's test the flow to make sure everything works correctly. Great! Since Replicate processes images asynchronously, we need to wait for the image generation to complete before go ahead and download the image. So, add another HTTP request node to check the status of the creation of our image. Set the get method and fill the URL with the dynamic expression of the link provided from the previous step. Add a wait node to pause execution until the image is ready, setting the delay to 5 seconds. And next, add a switch node to handle different statuses. When succeeded, we will continue with our flow. When processing, loop back to check the status again. This way, we will continuously check the processing status until it has successfully completed, allowing us to obtain our image. Again, let's test the flow to make sure everything works correctly. Great. If we inspect the output of the switch, we can find a series of information and the image generation parameters, along with the actual link. Our flow would be complete, but to keep track of all the generated images and identify the best seed for your needs, I recommend adding some additional steps to download the images and save the generation parameters. This way you can review them and adjust them in the future as needed. So for the successful path, let's an HTTP request node to download the image. Set the URL provided by the output of the previous step. Next, add a Google Drive node. Set up the credential, the file name with this expression, and finally choose a folder. Next, add a Google Sheets node to log the generation details. In my case, I will save the replicate generation ID, the prompt, the model, the generation logs, which will also include the seed, and the direct link to the file saved in Drive. Finally, add a set node to return the picture URL. Great! Our workflow is complete, and we are ready to generate images, store them in our Google Drive folder, and review the generation parameters. Now let's combine everything into a complete blog post generation workflow. Create a new workflow named Blog Post Generator. Start by adding a trigger node of your choice, like HTTP, webhook, or even a manual trigger. For this demo, we'll go with the manual trigger and include a set field where you can enter details, like the topic. If you've seen my previous video on the GPT-4o web search agent, here's how we can tie it in. Just add an execute workflow node that links to the web search agent and set the topic. Next, add an execute workflow node for image prompt generator and set the search results as context. Then add another execute workflow node for image generator and set the prompt that was created earlier. Now add nodes to generate the blog post content using your preferred agent. Finally, it's possible to add a node to save the generated information, such as creating a Google Doc or a spreadsheet, or making an API request to WordPress, and so on. For now, let's conclude the flow with a set node that includes all the information of our post. Let's sum it up. With this workflow, you can easily enter a topic, research relevant information, create a high-quality image, generate the blog's post, and save it. And that's it. You've set up an effective system to create high-quality images for your content, using n8n to manage it all. Here's a quick recap of the benefits. You pay only for what you use, avoiding costly subscriptions. You get top-notch images with Flux Models. Claude helps craft the best prompts. Everything is tracked and stored for consistency. And it's all integrated with web search for a complete content creation process. This approach gives you professional quality images at a fraction of the cost of subscription services or hiring a designer. Plus, you have complete control over the process and can customize it to fit your exact needs. If you found this tutorial helpful, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content on n8n, AI agents, and content automation. Don't forget to check out my previous video on creating a GPT-4o web search agent that complements this workflow perfectly. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.